The road to Hollow Pines, the Morgans needed to escape. After Grandpa's death, sudden, violent, unexplained, the family had splintered. The father, Alan, grew quiet, withdrawn. The mother, Dana, tried too hard to pretend everything was fine. Their teenage daughter, Ellie, buried herself in headphones. And little Max just started talking to himself. So they packed up the SUV, silenced their phones, and drove toward the only rental yacht they could afford last minute, a remote cabin just outside a nowhere town called Hollow Pines. They arrived just before dark. The trees swallowed the road behind them. The air was colder than it should have been for spring. The cabin was nothing like the photos. Older, smaller, almost sunken into the earth, like the forest was trying to reclaim it. Rustic, Dana joked. Max looked up at the cabin, frowning. "It's waiting," he said. "Waiting for what?" Ellie asked. Max didn't answer. He just walked toward the porch. Inside, everything smelled like damp wood and metal. The furniture looked handmade, rough and uneven. There was no TV, no Wi-Fi, just a fireplace, a few oil lamps, and a trap door to the attic. "Absolutely not," Alan muttered. But Max was already halfway up the ladder, giggling. "Someone's up there," he whispered. That first night, they tried to play cards by firelight. It almost felt normal, until Max started humming, a low, tuneless sound, over and over. "What's that from?" Dana asked. "She taught me," he said. "Who?" "The girl with the black buttons." They found him around 3 a.m., not in bed, but sitting in the attic, completely still, staring into a dusty corner. He was whispering. There was nothing there, except an old porcelain doll, half buried in insulation. Its mouth stitched shut, one glass eye missing. Alan grabbed up Max and carried him down. The boy fought and kicked, screaming, "She's not done talking to me." The next morning, Max refused to eat. He just sat on the floor, drawing with the broken crayons he said he found in the wall. His drawings were strange. One showed the family, but everyone's eyes were blacked out. Another showed the cabin from above, as if seen through the trees. A third, Ellie alone in the attic, surrounded by shadows. Dana decided they needed to leave, but the car wouldn't start. The key turned. Nothing, not even a click. Every phone was dead, even the ones that had been charging. "I'll walk to the ranger station," Dana said. "It's only 5 miles." She left at noon. By sunset, she hadn't returned. Alan hiked after her at dawn. He never came back. That night, Ellie and Max were alone. Ellie tried not to panic. She made food from canned beans, locked every door and window. Max just stared at the fireplace. "She said you'll see her tonight," he whispered. "Who?" Ellie snapped. "The girl who lives in the attic. She used to be part of a different family. They didn't listen either." Ellie found an old trunk buried behind the woodpile. Inside, newspaper clippings, photos, letters. One headline read, "Family of 4 vanishes near Hollow Pines. Cabin still under investigation." The photo was black and white, but she recognized the shape of the cabin, and one detail chilled her blood. A little boy in the photo was holding the same porcelain doll Max had found. Later that night, Ellie awoke to creaking, not from outside, from above. She climbed the attic ladder, flashlight trembling. The attic was empty, but the mirror on the wall was fogged. A child's handprint had been pressed into the glass. In the mirror, behind her reflection, a girl was standing, too pale. No eyes, just hollow black buttons. Her mouth was moving behind the stitched thread. Max was gone. Ellie searched the cabin, screaming, until she found him, curled up in the fireplace, his hands covered in soot. "She's going to let me stay," he said. "She only needs one more." Ellie ran for the woods. She didn't stop until her lungs burned. Somehow, impossibly, she ended up back at the cabin. The trees had shifted. The cabin was different now, taller, darker, like it had grown teeth. She tried one last time to break the mirror in the attic, but when she looked, she wasn't in the reflection anymore. Max was. He was sitting, smiling, holding the remote from their living room at home. And Ellie, she blinked. She was inside the mirror, standing next to the porcelain doll. The walls around her pulsed softly, breathing. The floor groaned like something under it was moving. And in front of her stood the girl. Button eyes, stitched grin. She raised a finger to her lips and whispered, "Shh, we're family now." Ellie screamed, but no sound came out. The attic twisted around her. The mirror rippled like water, and for a split second she felt her bones being unmade, like something was rewriting her body into the room. She stumbled back. The attic was empty. No girl, no doll, no Max. But her own voice whispered behind her ear, "Run if you want, but no one leaves Hollow Pines." She fled the house again. The forest was different now. Not silent, but listening. The trees leaned in. Their branches clicked together like fingers cracking joints. Shapes moved in the distance. Not animals. Other families. Other shadows. Walking in slow loops. Eyes wide open. Faces stitched in frozen grins. She found the road, but her car was gone. Not broken, not vandalized, just erased, like no one had ever come. She followed the road for miles, hours, maybe days. Time had started to stretch like the hallway back at home. Eventually, lights appeared in the distance. Civilization? No. Another cabin, exactly the same. And on the porch, Max, sitting on a rocking chair, smiling. "Max!" she cried. But when he turned, she realized that wasn't Max. It wore his face, but its eyes were mirrors, silver and blank. It opened its stitched mouth and hissed, "You're late." Then it pointed. Ellie turned. Behind her, the cabin she'd just left was standing again, where the woods had been moments before. Inside, she saw herself, walking through the kitchen, smiling, living the same day again. She pressed her hands to her face and wept. But when she looked down, her hands were porcelain, her skin cracked at the joints, and her mouth, she couldn't open it anymore. She looked into the broken window beside her and saw her reflection. She was the doll, now just a part of the house, somewhere far away. A website lists a cozy rental cabin in Hollow Pines. It has no reviews, no photos of the attic. But if you look closely at the mirror above the fireplace, you'll see her. Ellie, still watching, still waiting, still smiling. And behind her, Max stands quietly, holding the remote. Horror story. It started with a wrong turn. The Baxter family, Thomas, Lynn, and their two kids, 12-year-old Mia and 5-year-old Jonah, were heading to a rented lake house in Oregon. Quiet, remote, no neighbors for miles. The kind of place where people go to disconnect, but they never made it there. Somewhere between exits, the GPS started rerouting. "We've updated your destination," the robotic voice chirped. "What?" Thomas frowned. "I didn't change anything." They passed a rusted sign off the freeway. "Last exit, Coldwater Hollow." Population scratched out. A single arrow pointed toward a narrow forest road. "Shortcut, maybe?" Lynn offered. He hesitated, then turned. 10 minutes in, the road turned to gravel, then dirt. Fog spilled in unnaturally fast. It seemed to cling to the windshield. Trees grew thicker, leaning in over the road like they were listening. "Dad," Mia whispered, "this doesn't feel right." Jonah started humming a lullaby no one had taught him. They reached a small town, if you could call it that. More like a collection of half-buried buildings. Gas station, diner, motel with flickering neon that read St-Y-A-W-H-L-E. The letters T-I-E had fallen. Thomas pulled in front of the motel. "We'll just ask for directions, that's it." But no one came when he rang the bell. The air smelled like mildew and rot. Suddenly, Jonah ran off toward the forest, giggling. "Mama, there's a lady!" There was no lady. They found Jonah standing in front of an old well. A rope hung over it. Something wet dripped below. "Jonah," Lynn scolded, "you scared us." He just looked up and said, "She says we're already checked in." They drove, tried to leave. The road twisted, looped. No matter where they turned, they ended up right back in front of the motel. Thomas hit the gas in panic. The engine died. Silence. Then the motel's sign buzzed back to life. This time it said, "Stay while." That night in one of the rooms, they tried to sleep. Jonah wouldn't stop giggling. He sat on the floor talking to the dark corner. "She said you're next," he told Mia. "Who is she?" "The one who stays. She lives behind the mirror." Mia couldn't sleep. She looked in the bathroom mirror and saw something behind her. Not her reflection, someone else, something tall, grinning. Thomas found her screaming. The mirror shattered, blood on her hands, no cuts. She didn't remember anything. Lynn packed everything. "We're walking," she said, even if it took all night. They passed the same mailbox 3 times, and then the forest cleared into a neighborhood. But not their neighborhood. It was an exact copy, their house, their car, their mailbox. But everything was wrong. Jonah ran inside. Mia refused to move. "This isn't home," she whispered, "but it's pretending." Thomas and Lynn followed Jonah inside. The door slammed shut behind them. The house smelled like mildew, exactly like the motel. In the upstairs hallway, there were framed pictures of the family. Only the eyes had been scratched out. And in the center of the wall, a mirror. Jonah stood in front of it, smiling. "She likes us now," he said. "She said we can stay forever." The mirror rippled. From the other side, something stepped out. It wore Lynn's face and Thomas's voice, but it wasn't them. It smiled and whispered, "You made it home." Thomas slammed his fists on the steering wheel. "This is insane. We've been here before. This exact corner. The same bent stop sign, the same sagging scarecrow by the same crooked fence." Mia, pressed against the window, whispered, "That scarecrow blinked." They turned again. Different path, same motel. The neon buzzed louder this time. "Stay while," and now the eye was glowing again. They were being watched, directed, herded. Lynn got out of the car and screamed into the empty woods, "We're not staying here! Do you hear me?" Her echo came back 3 times. The third one whispered. They had no choice. No Geppen, no signal, no stars above. Just a black sky that didn't feel like sky at all. They went back into the motel, into a different room. Room 6 inside was already warm. The bed was turned down. 4 glasses of water on the nightstand. Jonah said, "She made it ready." Thomas locked every door, checked the windows, nailed one shut. Mia refused to sleep. But when she looked over at her brother, he wasn't in bed. He was in front of the mirror again, smiling at something that wasn't there. At 3:13 a.m., Mia woke to scratching. From the walls, from under the bed, from inside the mattress. She held her breath. The sound stopped until she looked at the mirror. Her reflection was waving, but she wasn't. The reflection opened its mouth, and blood poured out. She screamed. Thomas and Lynn rushed in. The mirror was fine, but Jonah was gone. They searched the room, the halls, outside, screaming, begging. He was gone. Until Lynn turned back toward the building and saw him in every window, every single room, staring out. Always the same smile, always the same slow blink. They broke down door after door, empty rooms, dust, mildew, same layout, same family photo frame, same key on the nightstand, but no Jonah. Until room 0, a door with no knob, only a keyhole, and something breathing on the other side. They forced it open, darkness inside, but not total. A soft glow came from the mirror on the far wall, and Jonah stood in front of it. Beside him, the woman. Lynn gasped, "It's her, from the well." She wasn't beautiful. She wasn't even whole. Her body rippled like melting wax, her arms too long, her smile sewn in place. She reached out and whispered, "We saved you a room." Thomas grabbed Jonah, but Jonah screamed and kicked. "She said you're not ready yet." The lights exploded. When they woke up, it was morning, bright, sunny, and they were back in the car, driving, GPS on, signal back. Lynn cried with relief. "It's over." until Mia looked down at the car clock. 3:13 a.m., over and over again. It never moved. They reached a town. It looked like home. Same grocery store, same gas station, same neighbor's dog barking at the same squirrel. But no one was outside. Every window had curtains drawn. Every door was shut. They pulled into their driveway. It was their house, right down to the dent on the garage. But when Thomas reached to open the front door, it was already open. Inside, it was too quiet. No echoes, no birds outside. They stepped into the hallway, and all four stopped. On the wall, a family photo, new, framed, taken just moments ago, but their eyes scratched out. Again, and this time burned into the wall beneath the photo, "Stay while." The lights flickered. Every mirror in the house darkened. Mia turned to run and saw dozens of versions of them, frozen in the reflections, repeating the same day, over and over. One of the Mayas in the mirror turned her head, not to the side, backwards. Her mouth opened and whispered, "You're home now. This is where the road always ends." Jonah began to hum. Same lullaby, same words as before. He raised the mirror remote and pressed play. Every light in the house snapped off, not with a flick, but with a sound like tearing skin. The air turned thick, like breathing through wet fabric. They weren't in the house anymore. Not their house, not even a house. It was a stage, a set. Black curtains surrounded them. The windows were painted, the doors were cardboard, and in front of them, on invisible rows of seats, was an audience. Dozens, no, hundreds of reflections. Twisted copies of their family. Mia with black pits where her eyes should be. Thomas smiling too wide, his hands nailed to his lap. Lynn motionless, blinking every few seconds but never changing expression. Jonah, not Jonah, not anymore. The real Jonah walked to the front of the stage. His voice echoed unnaturally. "She likes when we perform." Lynn grabbed him. "We're leaving, now." Jonah tilted his head, confused. "We are leaving every day." He pointed behind them, a door, one single exit. They ran, burst through it, only they were back in the car, on the road. Same tree line, same fog, same sign. Last exit, Coldwater Hollow. Mia began to scream. She punched the window, scratched the seats. Lynn sobbed, clutching her chest. "No, no." Thomas stared ahead. The GPS blinked, recalculating route. Jonah calmly looked into the rearview mirror and said without moving his mouth, "You made it home." The car doors locked with a sharp clunk, and behind them the motel lights buzzed on again. This time the sign didn't say "Stay while." It simply said, "Welcome back, horror story." The Harris family wasn't planning to stop. They were halfway through a 2-day road trip from Montana to California, a last-minute vacation before school started again. The father, Mark, hated long drives. The mother, Elise, was quiet most of the trip. Their teenage daughter, Riley, stayed glued to her phone, and 6-year-old Noah hummed lullabies in the back seat, the kind no one remembered teaching him. When the rain started, it was sudden, violent, as if the sky opened all at once. "Can't see a damn thing," Mark muttered, white-knuckling the steering wheel. The wipers squealed helplessly across the windshield. GPS, no signal. Cell phones, dead. And then, lights ahead. A vehicle pulled to the side. No, not a car. A bus. Ancient. Rusted. Its paint faded into blotches of yellow and green. Hazard lights blinked rhythmically, unnaturally steady. Taped to the windshield was a sign. "Rest stop, shelter from storm." "We're not stopping," Elise said sharply. "Noah, I gotta pee." Mark sighed and pulled over. But the moment they stepped out of the car, the rain stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Above, the sky was clear. Behind them, a wall of storm clouds. Ahead, peace, Riley muttered. "That's not right." Behind the bus stood a small lodge. 2 stories. Wooden beams. Porch swing that creaked despite no wind. One light burned inside. As they approached, the sign over the door flickered. The hollow hostel, no cars in the lot, no footprints in the mud, just the bus. Mark rang the bell. The door opened on its own. Inside was warm, cozy, a crackling fireplace and faint, old-timey music on a radio. And behind the counter stood a woman. Gray hair, a pale dress, smiling wide, too wide. Her name tag read, Mother. "Just until the rain clears," she said, as if she'd been expecting them. Elise hesitated. Riley clutched her phone, but Noah was already curled up on a floral couch, fast asleep. They stayed. Just one night. The rooms were simple, clean, too clean, like no one had ever touched them. That night, Riley couldn't sleep. The wind outside sounded like voices. When she peeked out the peephole, she nearly screamed. She saw herself, standing at the end of the hall, not moving, just smiling. And then the hallway version of her raised its hand and pointed straight at her. Riley stumbled back. When she looked again, the hallway was empty. At 3 a.m., Elise awoke. Silence. Noah's bed was empty. She checked the bathroom, the hall. Nothing. Noah was gone. Mark stormed downstairs. Where is he? The front desk was empty. Mother was gone. No phone, no radio, just a guest book on the counter. He flipped through the pages, line after line, all the same names. The Harris family, written in dozens of different handwritings. Same order, same names, same dates. And one final note at the bottom of each page. One stayed behind. They ran outside, but their car was gone. The lot was empty. Only the bus remained. Its doors now open. Inside, seated calmly, was Noah. But older, 10 years older. His eyes looked through them, not at them. "You can leave now," he said. "I'll take the next family." Then the doors shut, and the bus drove off. No driver, just red taillights disappearing into fog. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time didn't feel real anymore. Eventually, they came across a field. At the center stood a stone marker, freshly carved, Noah Harris, 2017. He stayed behind, like he always does. Elise screamed. Mark collapsed. Riley just stared. They walked directionless. Eventually a town. It looked like somewhere they'd been. Familiar streets, familiar houses, a mirror of home. They entered a diner. People stared, silent. Then from the kitchen came Mother, still smiling, still empty. She slid a photograph across the table. It was them, but older. And in the photo, they were all smiling, even Noah. Standing in front of the bus, Elise asked, voice trembling, "Where did you take him?" Mother whispered, "Nowhere, he's always been here, you're just catching up." Suddenly, reality cracked. The walls split open into fog. The ground beneath them vanished. They fell and landed. Back in their car, mid-drive, rain outside. Mark white-knuckled the steering wheel. Riley's phone buzzed to life. GPS searching. Then, "Wood rest stop, 6 miles." And ahead, just barely visible in the fog, the blinking lights of an old bus. Horror stories. That's all for today's stories. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear next time. Don't forget to support the channel with a like and a subscription. Bye for now. See you soon.